PlayStation fanboys, Xbox fanboys, they're fanboys of everything. But why do I talk about Xbox fanboys specifically? Well, let's get into the video. Let's talk about it. Yo, what's going on, guys? It's that guy Ken back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about fanboys and why I even talk about this to begin with, right? And why I talk about Xbox fanboys specifically, right? So I was thinking about this, and I think there is something to be said about it, right? Because obviously there's a fanboy of everything. It is what it is, man. It doesn't matter where you go, man. It doesn't matter what industry you go in terms of entertainment or whatever the case is, man. You're always going to have people who are fanboys of something, you know, if they truly love it, if they're passionate about it, right? It's no different for PlayStation. It's no different for Xbox. It's no different for Nintendo and PC and all this other stuff, right? But there's a reason why I talk about Xbox fanboys in particular and why they are a point of contention for me specifically. And this is the reason why. Because I'm going to start off by saying, you know, why is it that I don't specifically focus on PlayStation fanboys very often? And the reason why is because I believe the entire most of the rhetoric surrounding PlayStation fanboys is just that they have a superiority complex. A lot of the things that they talk about might be stupid, you know what I mean? Like, it might sound silly, like you hear any other fanboy say, right? But the difference, I believe, right, is kind of like no different than when you hear someone talk about sports, right? You're always going to have somebody who is a diehard fan of a team or whatever the case is, right? And they talk about it because they're passionate about it, and they are toxic in the interim of doing that, right? Or it comes off as toxic. I would say it comes off as toxic for other people who might not be involved in the culture of whatever it is, right? That's not something that you can get rid of. That's always going to exist, right? You're always going to have people who are just fans of what they like, and they're toxic, and they go back and forth about what's better and whatnot, right? And that's how I see PlayStation fanboys. You know what I mean? That's in my opinion, what they do is something that everybody does in every industry. You know, obviously you have people of the minority, man, who do ridiculous things, you know, death threats and all this other kind of stuff, right? You know, I think that happens across the industry. I mean, I don't think that's specific to PlayStation fanboys or whatever the case is, right? Now, why do I talk about Xbox fanboys in particular, right? The reason why I talk about them specifically is because their rhetoric it's not the same in terms of it just being like this, you know, kind of like, it's my favorite platform, you know, I champion it, you know, it's not toxic in that way. It's not toxic in the traditional kind of way. You know, a lot of the toxicity that comes from Xbox fanboys, right, is something that I actually believe is fundamentally damaging for the industry. That's what I honestly believe. Because a lot of their rhetoric comes from, you know, surrounding things like Game Pass, surrounding things like the culture around Microsoft, and them defending that, whatever the case is, right? Microsoft is making moves that I think can be very damaging for the industry. And to have people completely defend it and try to find any reason, right, to find any kind of positive notion behind what they're doing, I think is fundamentally damaging for the industry. And I do have an issue with that. I have an issue with people who irrationally and blindly follow a company like Microsoft specifically, right? Because of the ideology that they have and the vision that they have for gaming. And people just try to find any reason to try to justify what it is that Microsoft is doing. And I mean, those are just my opinions on it, man. I don't like the fact that there are so many people on the Xbox side, man, who are just so irrational to the point where it's like their reasoning literally doesn't make sense. It does not make sense at all. And like I said, you could see PlayStation guys do the same thing where they say things that don't make sense, right? But I don't believe that their reasoning is fundamentally damaging for the industry, man. I don't believe that what Sony's doing and why people defend Sony and the PlayStation and the games and stuff like that is damaging for the industry. I think it's just these things that people talk about when it comes to PlayStation are things that people have always talked about. Games, you know, they feel like it's better. People don't like PlayStation guys because they have a superiority complex. I mean, but that's not anything different than if you talked about anything else that somebody was passionate about, you know? This whole thing about Xbox fans and fanboys in particular, right? I believe that it can really be very detrimental for the gaming industry, and I just can't help but talk about it, man. You know, I think Game Passes can be very damaging for the industry. I think Microsoft's vision or their culture around acquisitions can be very damaging for the industry. And for people just to kind of brush it under the wayside, ignore things, don't talk about things, you know, try to spin it into a positive and all of this other kind of stuff, right? Is to me it's toxic in a different kind of way, man. Because obviously there's toxicity in terms of people just thinking that the platform is better. I don't talk about that kind of stuff because it's not of interest to me. I think that particular thing is similar to, you know, this with PlayStation. I mean, if people think Xbox is better and they're just toxic in that kind of way, I mean, that's something that's always going to be here. It's not going to go anywhere, right? But it is what it is. I mean, there's nothing really to talk about when it comes to something like that, you know, that kind of toxicity. But the toxicity that I'm talking about is, I believe, fundamentally damaging. And that's where these guys that's where their foot is placed in a lot of these conversations, you know. And, you know, for somebody who is very passionate about the gaming industry in general and creativity and the art of creating games and stuff like that, right? It's very difficult for me not to talk about it. It's very difficult for me to not call out some of the ridiculous nonsense that you hear people say, you know, regarding Xbox, Game Pass, and all this other, and Microsoft. But that's just my particular take on it. But like I said, I'm passionate about this, man. It's something that I'm really, really, really into, and it's something that I have been into, something that I love, and I'm gonna do what I can to, you know, to try to make it better and, you know, protect what I think as an artist, because, you know, I do have things that I, you know, artist related things that I'm into, whatever. As an artist, it's something that I just have to talk about, and I can't stand by the wayside and let people just literally destroy the industry for what we know it as. And that's just how I see it. That's my perspective on it. But other than that, guys, I don't really have anything else to say on this particular topic. If you like the video, make sure you like, share, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section, hit that notification bell, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.